Hey, how's it going? Mike Marin here, and welcome to this case study training of how I brought in $60,450 in sales in 77 days without spending a dime on advertising or doing cold calling of any type in a brand new niche. So was not in this niche previously, without any proof, didn't have any testimonials, and how you can too. So really what I wanted to do is show you this entire process from A to Z. So, starting from, how do you do this if you don't have an niche picked, right? You're not an expert. You don't have a high ticket service that you could sell for over $1,000, which is what you basically need today to make it semi-easy to succeed online. You don't have any testimonials or proof, right? And you don't have a ton of money that you're just willing to blow on advertising. So what I want to do is show you, based off of those starting positions, how do you go out and how do you land a high ticket recurring client with a leveraged service delivery, right? Without doing something that is going to take forever, right? My first business was a copywriting business, which I grew to six figures. The problem was every new deal that I landed, I had to spend, 8 to 12 hours writing a letter. So eventually I capped out because I had to deliver a service. So when I started this model, when I learned about this model, this essentially was a way to, it takes about 60 minutes to set up a client once you're at scale. So it's really, the service delivery is very leveraged and it's something that you could sell for over $1,000. So with that said, I do want to cover one major objection that I get when I teach this, which is like, hey, but I'm not Mike Marin, right? I haven't built a 7-figure agency. I haven't worked behind the scenes of some of the world's biggest experts and coaches. One of the companies that I was basically a partner in, we were the fastest growing coaching business for 2 years in the Inc. 5000. You might be saying like, hey, I haven't been doing this for 10 years. Like, I never had a training company that served more than, 12,000 customers, which is a business that I had before this. So, and also like, hey, I'm not networked like you are. I don't have the world's experts like Jason Hornig I could call up, and I don't know internet marketing people, right? I'm just at home. So does this work for me, right? So the regular people that I've taught this to, right? This is Dustin right here. Dustin was a mortgage broker, and this is within all 6 weeks of him learning this material that I'm going to teach you, right? Set a goal for 20K, he just hit 24K with almost half the month to go. 3K closed. He closed a $13,500 per month deal. Now it's Stasio right here. One video newsletter, 6 appointments, $5,000 a month deal, right? This is Matt right here. Before this, he had never made any money online. He landed his first deal, and then this is 3,700. Got another 2,200 on the line. Michael, 5K a month deal, bank and rank. And this is Dalen, first money in the bank after struggling to pre-sell leads for a year. Sold a client 20 lead package for $2,000. So these are people that they didn't have any proof. They weren't experts in this, and they're going out and they're landing $2,000 a month deals, $5,000 a month deals, $3,700, $2,200, $5,000, right? $13,500. So I just want to show you what's possible with this training. So the really simple business model that we're building is this. We're going to drive traffic into an education-based marketing video. Some people call that a VSL, although the way that I do it is more education-based. So it creates goodwill. If they like what they see in that video, which is going to do 80% of the selling for you, they're going to fill out an application to speak with you. So they're booking on your calendar. From then, it's running a 2-step close, which is number 1, an audit or qualifying call, or a discovery call, some people call it. And you're really just seeing if it's a good fit, right? You're learning more about them. It's 15 minutes. It's not like, a big sales presentation or anything like that. And if it sounds like a fit, then you book them kind of the second date, which is what I call the planning call. Some people call it the demo call. And that's where you're demoing basically this model, right? You're showing them how you could generate them leads and how you could build that, do multi-channel lead generation for them, and selling them on a package, which I recommend $3,000 or more or month. $3,000 or more a month, right? So here's kind of the full process, A to Z. Like I said in the very beginning, I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to tear the curtain back and really just give you what I wanted when I was first starting out, which is like, show me the email, right? Like, show me the education-based marketing video. I'm done with PowerPoints, right? Just let me hear the live call. Let me hear the live closing call. And the reality is like, unless you are spending $5,000 plus $6,000, sometimes even up to $10,000, like, you don't get access to that type of material in people's free stuff. So what I wanted to do is just kind of like give you everything, right? So I'm going to show you the exact email that I sent out. I'm going to show you the exact niche that I picked. We're going to break down the education-based marketing, that BSL. We're going to listen into the audit call. We're going to listen into the planning call, and I'm going to show you kind of A to Z what that client journey looks like, taking someone from a total stranger, someone who doesn't know who you are, all the way into a high-paying $3,000 per month recurring high-ticket client in the local space, or even it could be outside of the local space. But really, in my opinion, once you learn this skill of being able to go out to the cold market without having referrals, without having testimonials, and you're able to turn that into high-ticket recurring clients, you are free. And these are the skills that you need. You need to get good at prospecting and marketing, which we're going to cover with the cold outreach method and the education-based marketing. And then we're going to cover, you got to get good at sales. Like, how do you take, like step one, how do you get an interested business owner on your calendar saying, yes, I want to talk to you, right? That's skill number one. Skill number two is, right, without spending any money, right? And then skill number two is, how do you have a sales process that you could run using just your phone and turn that into a high ticket recurring client? Because, at 30, let's just call it 3,000, right? If they stay with you, let's just say they're with you for a year, that's $36,000 in revenue, right? And if your margins are 50%, then, you're looking at, I'm making myself do some math on the fly here. It's half of 30 is 15. So let's just call it 15,000, right? It'd actually be 18,000. So, $18,000 a year in profit, right? You'll need a couple of those to really quit your job if that's what you're looking for, or you really need only a couple of those to grow to a huge, huge level. Like, my best month in this model was $93,000 in a single month. And that was just done with me, a VA, and one employee. So you might ask, like, can I do this without creating the education-based marketing video? And you absolutely can. But I like to go off Peter Drucker's whole philosophy of marketing, which is, the purpose of marketing is to make sales superfluous, right? Make sales non-existent. So the way that I think of it is this golf ball analogy, which is like your drive, like think of a par three, right? Your drive, that pitch onto the green, is your advertising and marketing, and the putting is your sales. So the better you are at marketing, right? The more you move them closer to the hole, and the less skilled you need to be at sales to close a deal. The worse your marketing is, the harder it will be. Not saying you can't do it, right? Like, if you have no marketing at all, you can still close big ticket deals of $3,000 a month, and I've done it. You're just going to need a lot more objection handling, a lot more explaining on the phone call, and it's generally a little bit more unpleasant of a process. So what I like to do is send them from a cold email into an education-based marketing video, which is the marketing, and that essentially does 80% of the selling for me. It brings in pre-sold, pre-qualified, and pre-motivated prospects, so that when I get on the phone call, I'm only speaking with people that, number one, know what I offer, know why I'm different, have a general idea of the price, and want to do it. They know that they're jumping on here to work with me, which is very, very important. It's not like, we're saying, hey, I got a bunch of free leads for you, and jumping on the phone call and then trying to wrangle them into a sale, which, although can be done, it's pretty unpleasant of a process to do. So the first time I trained this, actually, when people heard these two calls, they were like, well, that was easy, Mike. That was a really good lead. Well, the reality is the lead was created from the marketing. Good leads get created from marketing, right? Like if I would have talked to this guy and he hadn't have gone through this initial thing, most people would have said, hey, it's a bad lead, right? So that is why we have this here. And this is kind of the process that we're going to go through, right? So I'm going to break down everything. So I want to start though from the kind of the very beginning, right? When I decided to start this business, you basically, and this is what you guys all need to do. So the secret to building a wildly profitable business without risk lies in the order in which you solve the following variables. And it's really crucial that you sell before you build, right? So there's variables in every business. And number one is niche. You got to pick a niche, right? Then you got to figure out what's the outcome of the transformation that you're going to offer. Then it's like, what's the price of that? Then what's the mechanism? Like, how are you going to deliver that? And then it's, how are you going to distribute that? What's the distribution channel? So a lot of people decide when they go into business to solve variables in the wrong order. And the right order is you want to solve for the niche first, right? Because that's the only independent variable in that equation. Like you need to know who you're helping, right? Once you've identified who you're helping, then we can figure out like what transformation does that person desire, right? And then we can figure out, okay, how much is that transformation worth to them, right? And then we can figure out, okay, based off the price, what's the mechanism that we could deliver it? Is it a course? Is it done for you? Is it SEO? Is it Facebook ads, right? And then it's like, once we know that, we know our margins, how are we going to, get this out to them? What's the distribution mechanism? Like, how do we get attention, right? How do we get a lead ourselves and how do we convert them? So a lot of people, it's like, they're so focused on like the mechanism. Like, I want to do rank and rent, right? That's a mechanism. I want to start a Facebook ads agency. That's a mechanism, right? Or like, I want to use webinars to sell, or like, I want to use cold email to sell. That's a distribution channel, right? It all starts with this order first. And that's really the right way to think about this, because based off your situation, you're gonna choose different mechanisms, different prices, different outcomes, right? So what I did, the niche I chose was NeoGraft hair transplant. And I did that for the following reasons. These are the niche filters that I use. Now, before I go any further, right? Let me just move to the next thing. So actually, before I go any further, I want to keep in mind here that one of my big principles that I teach is this. And I've trained this before, and I know people will copy this, right? I still run this business to this day in different niches. But the reality is that competition is a big, big, big factor. So many people are like, oh, you're going to do an agency or you're going to provide this offer and like it's not saturated, right? Like in my opinion, any good niche is saturated. Like, so when it comes down to it, my mentor told this to me and he said, Mike, if you were the only person in the world that could do Facebook ads, right? How much money would you make? And I was like, all of it, right? He's like, Mike, if you were the only person who could offer SEO, how much money would you make? Like billions, right? So he said, the problem with most people entering in online marketing or trying to make money from home is they buy these programs where everyone's like, hey, step by step with thousands of other students. And the program's like, here's my 15 funnels you could buy, right? And the problem is like thousands of other people are using those same 15 funnels, right? And eventually, when the market sees the same funnel it becomes aware, right? And we'll cover this a little later. But market awareness, the markets are fluid, right? So things work at certain points in time, right? So just like you wouldn't copy Blockbuster Video today, you don't want to copy what I'm teaching you outright. And people have done it. In fact, Dustin did it. He's like, I tried to copy it. It didn't work. And I was like, yes, told you in this training, it's not going to work. And that's the problem with a lot of these like step-by-step programs. And I bought them. Like I bought a Facebook ads training by, a famous guru, and he was like, here's your 5 niches. Choose the chiropractic niche and do the free student method, right? I did it, fell flat on my behind. Did not work, right? So the reality is the biggest limiting factor of your success is going to be competition, right? And that's what, my mentor was saying. Like, if you were the only person to do it, how much money would you make? You'd make a ton, right? So you have to think abundantly, but you also have to be very aware of competition is your biggest limiting factor of success. If you had no competition, you would make a ton of money. But the reason why I chose this, thinking through this, was because I looked through my niche filters, which I'm going to explain to you in a second, but I was like, I hadn't seen this in a course. I hadn't seen it trained. I couldn't really see that many other, marketers go about it. So in my mind, it was like a blue ocean. But the other thing to realize is that competition also is good because it means that there's money flowing. You just have to find a way to be different. And I'm going to harp on that throughout. So you don't want to go through this training that I'm giving you right now and just copy, choose hair restoration, NeoGraft, and then choose everything, right? Warren Buffett has this great saying where he's like, first there's the innovators, right? And that's really what I want you guys to be. Those are the people that make the most money in every market. Then there's the imitators, right? So first you got the Ubers, then you got, the imitators, which is like your Lyft, right? And usually the first or second imitators do pretty well. Then there's the idiots, right? And I don't want you guys to be the idiots because I know this training is going to go out to a lot of people. And if you guys are going to choose this niche, it's not going to work, right? So Warren Buffett says, first there's the innovators, then there's the imitators, then there's the idiots. And a lot of people, I'm going on a big tangent here, but a lot of people in most online courses that I see, the students are being the idiots. Like there's a program that I'm kind of like a teacher in, and they teach, the market was like, that is shown in the marketing is the tree service niche. It's like how to build a rank and rent website in the tree service niche. And you know what? The number one most popular niche inside that program is the tree service niche. And I'm like, it's not going to work. And it doesn't work for them, right? The people that have the most success in that program or any program like that are the people that take the principles and apply it so that they're different. It could be a super competitive market. Like it could be, gyms, right? Like what Alex Hormozi did. Went to the gym market, very competitive at the time, but found a way to differentiate himself. So I'm always thinking in regard to the niche I choose, like how can I find a way to have a competitive advantage in there and be different, right, than everyone else out there? And like if it's being trained, I'm like, that's fine. I want to apply it somewhere differently, right? So here's the niche filters that I look at. And that is number one, there has to be massive pain in the niche. Number two, I want there to be purchasing power. Number three, I want it to be easy to target. And then number four, I want it to be preferably growing, right? And that's kind of like, I put a lot of weight on the first three and then less on the fourth. But my overarching principle is like, how can I go in and how can I have a competitive advantage in this industry, right? How can I be different? Which comes down to, creating a great offer and doing the marketing. So the currency outcome is like, what's your currency? What are you going to be exchanging, right? So I know that if you're in business and you're not getting clients, that is very painful. That's why I like B2B markets. That's why, I've done stuff in the coaching space, teaching less tangible stuff, but they're the big niches obviously are health, wealth, relationships, all really good niches. And I like to stay in those because when you're not getting results in those areas, it's very painful. This is a business, this is money. And I also know there is a cost of staying where a business is, right? And like, if I looked at NeoGraft, the site called Real Self, and one, it was 100% worth it rating, which is like crazy based off 99 reviews. So everyone who got this procedure, number one, they loved it. And I like to sell, the only stuff you should sell is really good stuff. So you should be customer obsessed, like Jeff Bezos said. So the average cost was $9,585, right? Which is really, really cool because, what's the cost of them not getting one deal is 10 grand. Like if you know a way to help them get 3 to 5 more deals, it's costing them a lot. And that's very painful for them not to know that. The one thing I didn't like about this niche was that it's very small, 1,284 doctors and clinics. Again, you can look at the website RealSelf, but generally you want to go for bigger markets, right? I'm going to be totally transparent. The reason why I'm giving this niche away in a case study is because it is very, very small. People do try to copy, and I know people are going to copy this. So it's like, I'm willing to give this niche away and share everything to just kind of show you the principles that you then can apply to other niches. And the reason why I'm giving this away is because I think it's worth it to give this away. So there's 1,284 doctors. So usually you want to go for a little bit bigger of a niche. Purchasing power, right? This is very important. Like, you can only get what people have, and people forget about that, right? Like, so many people choose niches or go after people that just don't have the amount of money needed to pay for them. So I looked here. One of my favorite Google searches in any niche is like, what's the average revenue, right? Or what's the average salary? So the average NeoGraphs is done by medical spas, right? Which is growing, as you can see, which I like. And also the average medical spa revenue is $1,982.89.62. So like a lot of people do lead gen, right? And they're like, how about the niche of a hot dog stand, right? It's like the average hot dog stand, I don't know how much it makes, maybe 30, 40 grand a year. Like, you're just not going to be able to, in my opinion, get that much money out of that for the same amount of work, right? One of the biggest things that I learned is it's the same amount of effort to close a $5,000 a month deal as it is a $500 a month deal, right? Same amount of effort to fulfill on a $5,000 a month deal as it is a $500 a month deal. In fact, sometimes it's almost harder with the $500 a month deal because there's this rule that I have found to be completely true, which is the more expensive something is, the less skilled you need to be because there's a margin of safety in the product, right? Like, to do e-commerce or drop shipping, when you're selling a $15 or $50 widget, you have to be so much better at marketing and advertising because the room for error is so much smaller. Like, I have friends that run e-commerce businesses, and it's very, very difficult. As opposed to like, hey, I'm going to sell a high ticket service to a local business, a lot easier. You don't have to be as skilled, right? Like my friend who runs a e-commerce business, like, they had to get venture funding. They had to lose lots of money to get the marketing dialed in, and they weren't profitable till about a year in. Look at like Amazon, the biggest e-commerce brand ever. Like, they went negative for years. They lost money, right? So if you guys are looking for like a bootstrap cash flow business, which is what I'm teaching you in this, remember this rule. The higher the price the thing is, number one, the less competition there is, because for whatever reason, every beginner has this thought, like, I'm going to go for the cheaper markets, and then when I get better at this skill, then I'll go for the high ticket markets. And it's like, it's so wrong. The reason why I showed you some of the case studies in the beginning, the reason why I'm getting those beginners to land those deals is because I got them to choose bigger ticket markets, and it all comes down to purchasing power. So if you look here, it's like $5 million. If according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, it recommends that a business with annual revenues less than $5 million should advocate 7 to 8% of their revenues to marketing costs, right? And you might not be able to see that because I know my screen, I'm on the screen here, but 7 to 8% of the revenues. So if you do the math, right? Like, when you're doing lead gen, you're always like, my thing is like, you're always aiming to get a percentage of their budget, right? You could only get what people have, which is the amount of money they make and the credit. Like, everyone's worried about the recession. All a recession means is that credit is crunched. There's less credit available. So that people, like, if you're making $138,000 a year, that's all that you could get from that person. When we're in a good economy, you get $138,000 plus usually that person has like 50 grand of credits, that they could buy stuff on their credit cards, right? When credit's not good, then that person might have $138,000 which they make from their salary, and then they might get 10 grand of credit from the banks, right? And that becomes the total amount they could spend to buy products and services. So, but the point I'm trying to make is you want to go after businesses that are making more money, right? Like, I don't think you should go after any niche that is doing like the average business in that niche is doing less than $1 million in revenue, right? Because if you look at this, the average med spa, if we take what they should be spending on advertising per the year, that's $138,802, right? And 72 cents, right? If you divide that by 12, that means really they should be spending $11,566.89. Like, so that's the math I did before I chose this niche. And I was like, one, do they have the purchasing power? I'm going to charge, like, I could charge 10 grand a month, you know? My goal is, like, they're probably doing other worse forms of marketing, like billboards, which is a big thing that I want to look for. Like, are they spending money on advertising elsewhere? Like, I used to call it billboard niches. Like, the riches are in the billboard niches because that is like they're doing interruption advertising and you know they're spending a good amount. Let's just take that and let's move it to social media advertising where we get a lot more options and we could stick it in front of the right people because people are glued all day to their phone. People miss billboards, right? So I'd rather get that billboard message and jam it into their phone with a better offer for that local business, and you're going to get a much better return than a billboard. So, like, I know if an industry is using billboards, we could take them and we can move this to this model and we're going to do much better. And all I'm doing is, like, if they're spending $3 grand a month on a billboard, like, I want to take that $3 grand and I want to use that, right? So that was my aim. And my aim was to sell a $5,000 package in this niche and have a downsell to $3 grand. I think I started with, I was actually sharing with you the first call that I did, which is a $3,500 a month call. And that's what I started with, right? Like, I'll start a little lower and then I'll go up, you know? So that ticked the box, right? One, it's got the purchasing power. Two, there's pain, right? Three is easy to target, right? Like, there was a website, neograph.com, where I could go in, I click find provider, and I could find them, right? I could find their website. If you could find their website, if you could find their information, there are tools on the internet where you could get their email addresses and all of that. So it was very, very, I knew it was very findable, right? A lot of people choose these niches where it's like, you know, I like directory niches where it's like, there's a directory, find my provider, find a financial advisor near me, find, you know, Invisalign, another niche that I was in, right? Find an Invisalign provider near me, anything like that. Because, you know, if you can find their websites, there's ways, and which I'm going to show you, ways, or you could just hire this out, which is what I do most of the time, ways that you could gather those leads. So this was my initial business hypothesis. Again, the niche I chose with NeoGraft. And I saw a billboard on it, actually, which is what gave me the idea for the niche. So, but then it matched all the purchasing power. So it was one, NeoGraft, and then the outcome was like 5 to 10 new NeoGraft patients per month, right? That was like my hypothesis. Like, if I can get them 5 to 10 new patients a month, like, what would that be worth, right? Like, let's say it's, you know, if I get them 5, right? Pop out my calculator here. So 5 times, and the average cost of this procedure is $9,585, right? That's $47,000 that I could add to their business and revenue. Like, and they're already having a marketing budget. Like, do you think that they would spend $3,000 for 40 leads, right? And at a cost per lead, that's $3,000 divided by 40. That's $75 per lead. And I will tell you, like, with using my, you know, the AI social media system, which I'm going to show you coming up, you're usually not going to spend more than like $25 per lead. So I gave myself a big margin of safety. I was a little worried about this niche because I didn't know how much it was going to cost me per lead. So that's why I went with 75. Usually, like, I'll start with 50 is what I'll sell them for in the very beginning. You can sell them for 100 too, right? And my mechanism was going to be done for you social media ads using the AI social media system, which I'm going to show you guys, and then a lead gen site that I own, right? So essentially what I wanted to do was I wanted to take 40% of that $3,000, right? So 40% of that's going to be $1,200, and I was going to use that to generate them ads, generate them leads using social media, and then I was going to take 10% of that, which is $300, and I was going to build out a simple website that I could rank in Google using that money, right? $300, set something up, using WordPress, using Elementor, get that set up, or even using Snaps, which is drag and drop, just any like a drag and drop builder. And that was my idea. Now, the distribution channel that I chose was cold outreach and inside sales. So the reason I chose that is because, number one, cold outreach works, right? Salesforce.com was built to 100 million in revenue using cold outreach. There's a great book about it called Predictable Revenue by Aaron Ross, and it works. So Elon Musk also as well, he used cold email to build PayPal. So that's the reason I chose it. Now, the bigger reason of why I chose it is because I live here in Vegas, and essentially cold email is like free gambling. It's fast. You could really quickly within, the next hour, send out a cold email using an old Gmail account that you have. It's cheap. You could do it for free. If you want to use some automation tools, it's $50 a month max. And there's also precision targeting. So if you scrape a list of, like, say, Invisalign providers, that list, you have their email address, you can send a very targeted message. I have tried to start a business with Facebook ads, paid advertising. It's expensive. I've started a business with purely organic, and it's slow, waiting for a site to rank. This is the best of both worlds in any business that I could start with cold outreach, because number one, it's fast. You can do it within a few hours, and it's cheap. It is the way to start any new business. And if you look at Silicon Valley, the tech companies, a lot of them, it's, outside sales, outreach to an inside sales is really kind of their preferred method to start any company as well. And they're raising all that money with venture capital. So here's the 7 steps to cold sold, which we're going to go in detail in the upcoming videos. This is the process where if you're starting from scratch, how do you go from nothing to money in the bank? Number one, you select a hunting niche, right? You get their information, you gather good cold email data, LinkedIn data, you verify that data, you then craft your messaging, which is what's going to cause them to say, hey, yes, I want to speak to you, right? So that's in 2 parts. That's crafting, doing your cold email copywriting, which we're going to cover. There's your email delivery system, like how do you send out the emails? What are the automated tools for that? Then there's, hey, they booked up. How do you follow up with them, right? Because not everyone books right away. So there's a follow-up in place, as well as, what's the technology to set appointments, right? I use Schedule Once. They book on my calendar. And then there's having those 2 phone calls. What are the scripts? You'll be able to listen into the live calls, closing like a boss, and then getting that, having that money in your bank, making that exchange, right? The key to prosperity is exchange. You need a person, you need an offer, you need the ability to make an exchange. So it's like getting, if you're starting from scratch, it's getting your Stripe account set up with something like PayFunnels, or, getting a PayPal account, and then getting Payflow set up so that you can process credit cards over the phone. And that's pretty much it. So I want to don't want to make these videos super long, like an hour or anything like that. So with that said, I'm going to catch you in the next video where we're going to start to go over, we selected the hunting niche, went over my methodology. In the next video, we're going to go over how to gather and verify the cold email, as well as cold email copywriting. And we'll walk through this whole process with live examples, live calls, and really show you how this is done.